Blumhardt and her Feats of clay.
In 1991, the New Zealand Academy of Fine Arts held a retrospective exhibition of the work of one of New Zealand's most important educators and ceramicists, Doreen Blumhardt. Doreen has, for 50 years, been an important figure in art education, and she's also a potter of distinction.
And if Doreen Blumhardt will permit me, tonight, through her fine retrospective exhibition, she has yet again demonstrated that she is the fine old lady of pottery, if not the grande dame.
Dame Kath Tizard presented her with the Governor-General's Award in recognition of her work in these fields.
The old Mac Green one, yes. The other one, where in Dunedin in the very first exhibition ever in Society. Isn't that fun?
It was a time of celebration, and for Doreen an opportunity to enjoy old friends and renew acquaintances with the scores of pots she calls her children.
Now, some of those who went to pieces have said they felt bereft without their children. But for me, of course, it's a joyous reunion with my children, some of which I haven't seen for many years. They haven't changed with age, and it's most rewarding to know that they're in homes where they really are dearly loved.
Doreen Blumhardt was a pioneer in the New Zealand craft pottery movement of the 1950s. Her work is bold and spectacular and bears the influence of the Japanese masters she so fondly loves. She has won a Wattie Award for the book Craft New Zealand, the definitive work on the subject, and although she retired nearly 20 years ago from her role as head of the art department at Wellington Teachers College, she still enjoys the enthusiasm and vitality of children and their art.
If you're going to use red, you see that's the colour? Yep. And the black? Are you quite pleased with the background? What's that? Is that a brown colour?
Yeah, it's brown skin. A brown skin colour.
Brown skinned person?
Yeah.
For her work in these fields, she has received many honours. Doreen was brought up in Whangarei in the 1920s. Her father was German and was a broadly educated, cultured man. As far back as she can remember, Doreen was always interested in the arts and in teaching.
And we had a little school orchestra, and I played the violin in the school orchestra. And old Mr. Richardson, who was our art teacher, he continued the old tradition of setting up still life or his coat hat and what have you, anything that was an object in the room. And, well, I seemed to come out top honours in the high school as well. But I always wanted to become a teacher. That was my ambition. I always felt that teaching was something I really wanted to do more than anything else.
In 1939, she went to Teachers College in Christchurch. Her talents as a teacher were quickly recognised, and she was singled out to help redefine the role of art in the curriculum by Dr. Beebe, then Director General of Education.
And the first thing he said to me, he said, this is wartime, there are no materials in the schools, you must find out where we can get materials to work with. That's your first duty.
Doreen became a woman with a mission.
My work then was largely in going out to find people who could make paints, people who could produce suitable wool for us for weaving, what we could find in the way of paper. There was none in the schools. And so much of my time was going around and talking to people like Buntings to make brushes suitable for schools, long-handled ones with large brush end, so that children could, in fact, have a large brush to work with.
The other side of Doreen's job was to demonstrate to teachers ways to use art within the curriculum. The doctrine of Herbert Reed was sweeping education outside New Zealand in the 40s. Education through art, rather than education in art, was the catchword. The unique quality of children's art was being reassessed and redefined.
All these masks that we've made, we're going to put them together. You realise that, don't you? We're going to put them on a wall all together. That's why we made them all the same size. He's going to have purple hair. That's fun. It was quite amazing, the difference in working with children when you allowed children to really express their ideas. And, you know, education means to draw out from. It's not to push into. And drawing out from children their ideas and so on. And each one is unique and has a wonderful lot to tell us if we will allow them to do so. And many of them can't do it in words, and they do it so beautifully in their illustrated paintings.
Doreen's pottery grew out of her experiments with homegrown materials during the war. She began as a weaver, but she fell in love with clay.
The challenge of making a piece of clay do what you wanted to do was perhaps, of all the arts, because I'd painted and I'd done weaving and screen printing and many things, but somehow pottery was the greatest challenge, I think. You had to not only be artistic in your concept, you needed to be strong physically, you needed to be a chemist to know about glazes and various clays and how they fitted together. You needed to be somewhat of an engineer to work at kilns, particularly the oil-burning kilns that we were having at that time. The electric kilns were simpler. And I guess I've just loved the result.
And so have thousands of her admirers. Her distinctive, gutsy pots are in collections right around the world. Doreen Blumhardt's art reflects the enthusiasm and experiments of the 1950s in New Zealand.
Well, my first stoneware kiln at the Teachers' College in the Glen in Kelburn, in Wellington here, many times the shelves collapsed and the pots melted and glazed and they all stuck together because really I didn't know enough about these things. But the greatest teacher is trial and error, and I think many of us learnt a great deal in those early days, and we shared everything. It was a wonderful time of sharing. Everybody told everybody what they had, how they had been experimenting, what they had done, what they had used for this glaze or that, and I think that that was a great time of friendship and achievement.
During this period, Doreen found time to write about her enthusiasms. She founded, with Helen Mason, the New Zealand Potter magazine, and wrote with photographer Brian Brake 2 important books on New Zealand craft: New Zealand Potters, Their Works and Words, and Craft New Zealand, which won a Wattie's Book Award in 1982. Doreen lives high on the hills overlooking Wellington. An active person, her enthusiasm and energy belie her years, and the day is too short for her. For her, writing is now passive and too sedentary. She retired early from teaching to concentrate on her pottery, and that is what she does. Doreen's inspiration is a breathtaking panorama from her Northland home, and the hundreds of friends and visitors she welcomes into it. Among the visitors have always been the Potters, especially those from Japan, where she went on a study grant in 1962. This time, it's Japanese national treasure, Imaizumi Imaimon, who visited New Zealand as part of our 150th anniversary celebrations.
Oh, beautiful.
Keshi.
You decorated it?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
On other occasions, she's welcomed other greats. Hamada, Takeichi Kawai, Fukuma, Shimaoka. They leave behind and take away tokens that are a potter's mark of friendship, tokens that add to the riches of Doreen's home environment. Doreen Blumhardt has lived a full life, a writer and lecturer, a potter of international class. She's been a fundamental influence in the development of art education and Indigenous New Zealand culture.
Every day I am grateful to have been part of this whole movement because it's given me a wonderful overall feeling that New Zealand has grown enormously in its appreciation, its understanding, and its ability to produce great artists, both in music and in the visual arts, who've made their mark overseas and in New Zealand.
A potted history of Doreen Blumhardt. Now it's from pots to the things people
What a woman.